Hey guys, it's DJ. Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you don't know who I am, my name is DJ Dykes. I'm a professional voice actor specializing in commercial, narration, promo, trailer, and starting to train for animation in video games, but that's for a different story. And anyways, I have voiced for thousands of clients, and the list just keeps getting bigger. I love my career. I like to view my story as kind of an unorthodox story in a lot of ways. And one of those ways is the fact that I kind of built this whole career from outside of the United States. I work almost exclusively in the US market, with the exception of the smattering of international clients that I service. But 99% of the work that I do is for US based clients. And I do all of this from South Korea. So I think this video might be relevant for that audience that is really interested in building a career and trying to see if it's possible to, one, have a career from overseas. Two, is it necessary to travel to the United States permanently, like relocate? And just other stuff that you may not have considered as you think about trying to work in the US market. So the question, and I'm just gonna paraphrase, I don't want to send her personal information out, but she's Chinese Canadian, has been working in Hong Kong for the past 25 years, and voiceover has been her side hustle. So it isn't a full-time thing, but she'd like to expand into full-time voice acting and is considering relocating to the US. How difficult is it to service North American clients, maintain relationships, network, while being on the other side of the world, obviously? And if she were to relocate, what would that entail? Like, what does she have to consider? And then finally, she asks about like the finances. Is it lucrative to be a voice actor full time? I want to kind of talk about each one of these and insert some things that some of you may not have thought about. So first, the time difference. Obviously, that's the big one. Being in Asia, whether that's Japan, South Korea, even Australia. Australia is like, I think mostly an hour ahead of me. So that's like, what, 14-hour difference between New York? Singapore, the Philippines, they're an hour behind us. Okay, so that's a 12-hour difference. I think that's the most ideal difference, like time difference, because I work overnight. Right now, it's 1:38 in the morning, which puts that at 12:38 Eastern time. It's 9:38 in LA. And so basically, I will be up all night long until about maybe 7 or 8 a.m. This is something that I had to commit to. Before that, I was trying to manage both time zones, like living a normal life in Korea while trying to work over at nighttime. But it wasn't until I got signed with ACM Talent, the management company, and I realized that I need to be available at a moment's notice. And that's when I really decided, you know what? I'm going to stay up all night long and basically work nights. Generally, I'll work until like 6, 7, 8 a.m. My daughter goes to school at 8 a.m., 8:30. I say goodbye. And then I'm asleep. My wife lets me sleep until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. She's busy doing her stuff. I get to sleep in. My daughter gets out at 2:30, 2:45, and I'm awake when she gets home. My wife has just adjusted her schedule to basically make everything that we do together in the afternoons or the evenings. Whatever your time difference is, all right, it's going to come with its own set of challenges. I don't know exactly what the difference is between the UK and New York, but you may have to record late at night, which is still daytime for LA and New York, right? But again, that's just one of the things that comes with the job. You just have to be available. Likewise, if you are in New York and the client is in Asia, well, you got to be up at nighttime. I mean, so it's just something that comes with the job. Time differences, everybody's working remotely now. Very rarely do you have to go into the studio to record somewhere. And so everybody is just kind of making it work. And that is just something I've committed to, is the time difference. I work overnight. My standard hours are Eastern Standard Time. And I adjust for Pacific time. For example, both my clients today, one client today is on Eastern time, one client today is on Pacific time. And so I have to adjust my live session schedule for them. If you're working a full-time job overseas, though, meaning you work in the daytime, for example, daytime in Korea, then my question to you is, how are you going to manage working overnight? Because if you finish working at 5 p.m., that's only 4 a.m. in New York. You have to be awake when they start getting up and stuff. So I don't think it's possible to have a full-on career as a voice actor while working part-time overseas. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't think it's a great idea. If your full-time job is making enough, do your full-time job. And whatever opportunities come that match your schedule, be happy with those. Or look at working locally in your own market. But again, like I said at the beginning, the US market is more lucrative than a lot of Asian markets. And I'm assuming that most of the world is not paying as much as the US market. She asked about networking and maintaining relationships. This has been something that I had to find out for myself, like the best way to do it. Because as you guys know, if you're in New York or LA, you have full access to the market. You have full access to the workshops that are in person. You have full access to conferences like VO Atlanta and One Voice. You have access to meetup groups, workout groups, all of this stuff. One, how can you create that from overseas if you are overseas? And two, is it necessary? Let me answer the first question. For me, I am very picky about how I network because obviously I don't want to just try to do everything and meet everybody at one time, and it's not possible. I wouldn't have any time to do direct marketing. I wouldn't have any time to basically do anything else if I'm trying so much to build relationships. And that's just a sacrifice I've decided to make. Do I wish that I had more, I don't want to say connections, but more relationships in the industry? To be honest, not really. I'm kind of an introvert. Actually, I'm really introverted. So I don't really need the network. I just do the direct marketing and finding my own work. I'm very good at that. So I don't need anybody to be a friend per se. I have, I call it like a smaller circle of people that I try to maintain relationships with. But they understand, like, it could take me a day or 2 or 3 to get back to you. It's just, I'm not like that. I'm not a mingler. So if you are somebody who needs a network to keep you motivated and to hold you accountable, well, find your network or, you know, I guess grow up and do it yourself. I'm not trying to sound rude, but like, I don't think you should need an accountability group to make you do your job. You just got to do your job. So that's something, that's the answer to the first question. The second question is, do you need the network? Yes and no. No, in the sense that you don't need to be in every single circle. You don't need to be touching every single LinkedIn post that's made. You don't need to comment on every Facebook group or every TikTok video. You don't need to do that. It's not necessary. I don't do that. And I consider myself to be fairly successful. What you should do, though, is be very strategic. If you decide to stay overseas and work in the US market, be very strategic about the relationships that you make. For example, when it comes to coaches, not every coach is created equal, okay? And that's not just in their skill as a coach and as a voice actor, but different coaches have different connections. You know, people don't really like to talk about it, but you want to make sure you choose a coach that you know has the ability to touch a certain person in the industry. And I know that sounds like, well, I'm trying to sneak my way in. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like, you don't want to coach with somebody who can't help you level up your career. That's just how I see it. And it's the same thing in the corporate world or in any other job you do in your life. You build relationships, and you have to kind of triage those, friendships that are just about the relationship, and then business or professional relationships where you guys can scratch each other's backs and you both benefit mutually, right? And so when you choose a coach, make sure you keep that in mind. Like, who is this coach connected to? Who's in their network? Who coached them, Also, that goes with demo producers as well. Demos are expensive, but, the price of a demo should come with more than just the demo. It should also come with the ability to be heard by, big agencies or big management companies or big casting directors. Like, the top demo producers are listened to by those entities. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to get a cheap demo and it's from somebody who's now maybe not so well known and they're just trying to get their feet wet and this, that, and the other, if you want to save some dollars, hey man, do you. Save some money. But understand that your ROI will more than likely be less. And you'll probably end up having to level up your demo anyways, to make up for that lack of return on your initial investment when you pay for another demo to access those things. Is that making sense? It's something that I didn't really know when I got started, but it's important. All right. So with the networking, as a last note, make sure that you are attending workshops and be very strategic about the workshops that you attend. You don't want to go into a workshop, for example, an animation workshop, and you've never done animation, and it's with this huge casting director or this agent from Atlas Talent, and you're trying to do an animation read for the very first time in front of these people. If the workshop is being hosted or taught by an agent, a manager, or a casting director, I argue you should not be attending that workshop unless you are ready to show them something. It is not a time to learn. It is not a time to get coached up. You're wasting the agents or the managers or casting directors' time, in my opinion. I mean, you do what you want to do. I mean, hey, do you. But first impressions are lasting impressions. And, a lot of people don't talk about it. But many times when these workshops are being held, again, and I'm talking to you international people, this is a way to get your foot in the door. When these workshops are being held, usually the agent or the manager or the casting director are looking to fill spots on their roster, either with a full-blown signing or with a kind of a hip pocket kind of a thing. We'll just put you on our penciled roster and we'll send you some opportunities as they come through. In either case, you want to be a part of that. So you need to put your best foot forward. Do not go to workshops if you are not prepared, if it's being hosted by a casting director, an agent, or a manager. Now, if it's being hosted by Coach so-and-so or whomever that isn't a decision maker in terms of like signing you to a roster, hey man, go balls to the wall, all right? Do you. But that's like a really big piece of advice. I'm very strategic with my workshop attendance because as somebody who isn't stateside, I have limited opportunities to get my voice heard by these big decision makers. And so whenever there's those big agencies or whatever in a workshop, I don't care if I'm already with agents and I'm already with managers, but I will still read for these people because they need to know me. They need to know my name. They need to know my voice. Because, hey, when the workshop, they'll be like, hey, everybody introduce yourself and say where you are. Oh, I'm DJ. I'm in South Korea. Inevitably, it's like, what? It's South Korea? Because it's such a novel thing, right? And they don't forget that. DJ, black guy, South Korea. Damn, his reads are good. Those things stick. You know what I'm saying? So when you go and you try to sign up for these workshops to build your network or to build your opportunities or relationships, make sure that you're ready, guys. All right. Make sure that you are ready to, knock their socks off. Let's talk about something that's not so glamorous. And that's the health part of this. I used to be a medic in the military. I worked night shift for like a year. And it was rough. Whew, it was rough. As I've gotten older, I'm 41 this year. As I've gotten older, I realized that staying up overnight is not as easy as it used to be when I was younger. And so what I've had to do is adjust my lifestyle to keep myself in as good of a health as possible. And it's not even a grammatically correct sentence, but I said it anyway. So I make sure I get 6 to 7 hours of sleep at least. My wife is a Nazi about that. She will make sure I get 6 hours. She's like, check your iWatch. She's like, let me see, 5.5 hours, go back to bed. She makes me go back to sleep. Sleep is so, so important. I also will wear I have a blackout blanket. We have the blackout curtains and stuff. I try to keep it as dark as possible. I sleep with AirPods in so that, I can block out the noise and stuff. Also, I take melatonin a couple hours before I go to bed. I pop a melatonin. That way I'm able to sleep soundly and keep my rhythm in check. I will also exercise as much as I can. For example, I exercised a couple hours before I recorded this video, just to make sure that I'm getting the activity that I need. Because sometimes I don't have a chance to be active during the day. So I make sure that I'm active as much as I can. As far as dieting goes, not dieting to lose weight, but the food that you eat. Many people say you gain weight by working overnight, but the reality is it's because of a lack of movement and it's an increase in snacking. If you've ever went to university, those late night cram sessions, you end up just snacking a lot, right? The brain craves glucose late at night. And so snacking happens. I have essentially stop myself from snacking unless it's a healthy snack. So you make sure that when you're choosing the food that you eat overnight, that it's healthier, no candies, okay, no sodas. Go with some carbonated water, some cashews, or some cranberries. I don't know, like stay healthy, okay? Because you don't want to shave years off your life because of poor dietary decisions or poor sleep. You don't want to die early, you know what I'm saying? And there's other health risks too, like high blood pressure and other cardiovascular issues, diabetes, yeah, sleep apnea. Like, you got to be careful about all this stuff, guys, okay? She asked about earnings. I'm not going to throw my numbers out there, okay? That's my business. Is it lucrative, though? This is something that I can't answer for you. Was it J. Michael Collins? If you guys know who J. Michael Collins is, in one of his podcasts, I believe it was last year, he said that 90%, I believe, 90% of voice actors um, don't make a livable wage, meaning they're like below the poverty line, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and if I am mistaken, it isn't far from that. It basically, like, less than 10% of voice actors who call themselves voice actors are making enough money to live just off voice acting. That's 1 in 10, guys, okay? And of that 1 in 10, like, even a smaller percentage is making over 6 figures. So if you're asking, is it lucrative? I would challenge you by asking you this question. Which genres are you trying to work in? If you are somebody who sees yourself in animation or video games, and that's like your bread and butter, that's what you want is animation and video games, hey, do you, okay? I'm not going to tell you not to do it because that's your dream. But traditionally, those aren't very high-paying jobs, okay? Same thing with audiobooks. I'm not saying audiobooks can't pay well. There's a lot of money that goes into recording an audiobook and, getting it checked and proofed and all of these things. It takes money. So even audiobooks there's not a get rich thing, like not a get rich quick anyways. E-learning, no. You're not going to get rich doing that either. Is it lucrative? I guess it could be, depending if you're niching down. If you're like in medical narration, perhaps. But if you're just doing like run-of-the-mill, onboarding training, no, it is not. The money is and has always been in commercial. That's where the home runs are. That's also where it's hardest. I say it's hardest. It's one of the hardest to book in because it's so competitive. Not as competitive as animation and video games, but it's pretty damn competitive. You have to be very good. And if you're somebody who's overseas and you have an accent, I made a video about this. Your accent doesn't matter. Okay, you can audition and still book work with an accent. But unless you can do a neutral US English, American English accent, you're going to be cut out of the majority of auditions that come through because they don't need somebody who has some nondescript accent that isn't from the US to voice a US spot. They have enough Americans to do that. You know what I mean? Most people who are accented are going to be in like parody spots, things like UNICEF or just things that call for that accented read. And a lot of the times, they don't even want like a heavy accent. They just want something that's like you can't place where they're from. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a strong accent, you might want to get with an accent coach before you decide to make this a full-time thing or try your hand at making it a full-time thing. Get you an accent coach that can work on your accent to make it sound as close as possible to a neutral American accent. But yeah, that's something I would work on before I even make the move, was trying to be able to sound like an American. Being lucrative. I don't know what lucrative means. Everybody's definition, that can be different depending on your local currency and how much money you need to survive. I'm going to say it is not. All right. It is not a lucrative job. Even if you are working only in the US market, even if you live in LA, even if you live in New York, is it lucrative? Probably not. I mean, you might make $50,000 a year, and that's good. That's still better than most other people trying to do voice acting. You might make $75,000 a year, and that's a good year for somebody who, is in the top 10%. Probably, I think that's maybe the top 5% if you're making $75,000. And over six figures, you're already in like the 2 or 1%. And I believe that a percent of the 1% is making like 250 or more. It is a very, very, very hard industry to, I don't say get rich, but to make a really good living. So it would be disingenuous for me to say that it is lucrative, because I would only be speaking for myself. Um, my advice to you would be to coach. And I'm not pitching you on my coaching services. That's not what that's about. But there are so many voice actors already, you know, and many of them are coaching or have coached. And if you try to go in this with no coaching at all, you're competing with literally like actors, like people who can act. I am literally going up against people who have graduated from, master's programs in acting, like MFAs, Masters of Fine Arts and Fine Arts and Acting and stuff. Like that's what you're going up against. You can't just walk in here and say, I sound conversational and start booking. That no. So my final piece of advice to you would be to really think about realistically your skill level. Do you have an accent? Do you have the ability to stay up all night long? Do you have the ability to relocate? That's a big ass financial move, especially in this economy. Woohoo! Good luck. That's rough. But if you got the money for it, hey, do what you know what I'm saying? And I would say just try it. All right. I hate being the person to say, oh, you would never be to do it, because people told me that. And then I turned around and I fucking did it. Like, don't tell me I can't do it. That just makes me want to do it more. After you've gotten trained up and you think you're good enough and your accent has been fixed and you don't sound like you're not American, I would be working on trying to get an agent. Okay. Because at least with an agent, you can start getting somebody kind of working for you on the state side until you decide if you're going to relocate or not. An agent can help you with that, but you have to be coming to the agent with a book of work, meaning you got to show them what you're doing. Here's the jobs that I've booked. And the only way you can show them that is by direct marketing and finding your own clients. That could be on a pay to play, it could be on a Fiverr, or it can be an email or production rosters, but you got to find the work and you have to book work and you have to be able to show them, hey, here are the clients that I've worked with this year. Ba, 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 ba. You know what I'm saying? I'm already doing my thing. I just need somebody else to help, multiply what I'm already doing. And if you come at an agent like that, they're more likely to give you a listen. And on top of that, if you have all of that already, go to the workshop that has the agent or the casting director or whoever, and read for them live. Let them hear you live. Let them see your face. And then when they say, oh yeah, that was a good read. Wait, where are you again? I'm like, hey, I'm in South Korea. South Korea, huh? But it's okay, because I work overnight. I work on Eastern time. I sleep during the day, and this is what I do. I've been doing this for 5 years. And it hasn't stopped me, and I do really well. And they're like, okay. So you stay up all night? You got Source Connect? Cool. All right. Here's my email. Contact me. As somebody who has done this and proven that it can be done, yes, you can build a full-time voice acting career from all the way across the world. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I know it's a bit long, but it's one of those things that I think deserves a bit more lengthy explanation. And if I forgot to mention anything, leave it in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.